A little bit of a come down from the Masters this past week because we go out to the RBC Heritage, Hideki Matsuyama winning the Masters. Instead, we're talking about Harbour Town. It's still a pretty good event, and there's a good field here for sure, but it's definitely different. So we're going to break things down, let you know which golfers we're on for this week in PGA DFS, let you know who stands out, what kind of archetype of golfer we're targeting, and our favorite plays for FanDuel for this week. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as always by Brandon Gdula. He is the managing editor for numberFire.com. And Brandon, I'm conflicted because we love Hideki. We're a pro Hideki podcast. However, I definitely jinxed Xander. I messaged you good luck when he was within 2, and he hit it in the drink like maybe 10 seconds after I pressed send. So it's weird because simultaneously very happy for Hideki Matsuyama, but also I feel extremely guilty that I definitely cost Xander the win. So are you okay with being on the air with me right now?
I mean, it's really not any different than usual, I guess. No, I mean, like, I love Xander, but like you said, we love Hideki. It's awesome for what he did. I can't fully comprehend what it means to Japan, but apparently it's a very, very big deal. I feel for Xander, but it's his fault. The 3, 4, 5, he kind of took himself out of it. He really had to get back into things. But if you, Jim, ever are curious as to why I feel Xander's vibes, whenever he put that one in the water and he just turned and just gave like the sarcastic nod, like he knows what just happened. Yeah. I was like, that's me in like another body. So yeah, he'll win one eventually. But again, congrats to Hideki. It was not the best, most exciting Masters, but at least we got some excitement on Sunday.
I'd rather have a dud with a player or a golfer we like winning than a dud with like Patrick Reed. I mean, just hypothetically.
Well, when Justin Rose surged out on Thursday, I was like, I have nothing against Justin Rose.
Sure.
But I also don't have strong feelings for Justin Rose.
Yeah.
And so if he ran away with it, it'd be one thing. If Hideki bot just went into like Hideki bot mode and was just like, well, this one's over on Friday. Yeah. Like that would at least been cool.
Right.
The Rose shimmy, the shirts, it's just not quite for me.
But the good thing is, in addition to the fact that we are a pro Hideki podcast, there was a picture of him in the airport wearing a flat brim. I mean, people talk about the green jacket, whatever. I think, Brandon, you were probably more drawn towards the Augusta National flat brim than the green jacket, I assume.
Yeah, I want that. That was pretty nice. But yeah, I think he flew commercial.
Did he pay for that hat? That's what I'm curious about. Like,
I would imagine he did. If someone offered it to him, he probably was like, "No, I'll pay for it." But
no, they should give him the hat. I mean,
they should. I don't know if he'd take it.
Okay, you choose flat brim or green jacket. If you are presented with both,
I'll take that flat brim.
Okay, that's what I figured. We're going to get set here for the RBC Heritage and let you know our favorite plays for this weekend on FanDuel. But as always, we have our Q&A later today, Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook pages. Brandon is with you first, talking about this event from a betting and a DFS perspective, letting you know what he's seeing there. You can ask him questions. He'll pull up his spreadsheets and let you know what things look like. They're doing head-to-head comparisons and stuff like that. I'll hop on at 4 p.m. to get you set for today's MLB DFS slate. A pretty fun slate, too. A lot of good pitchers. Some decent stacks. Not the best, but like decent stacks. But the pitching, really fun for today. So Brandon's at 3:30. I am at 4. Make sure you're subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook channel, your platform of choice. Get those questions in for today and get set to win some money as well. Also, a reminder to subscribe to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed for PGA, UFC, NASCAR, NBA. Isn't that like a business thing? Whatever.
NBA, yeah.
Yeah. NBA, NHL, MLB. I combined MLB and NBA. There are a lot of sports going on. They're all in the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. So make sure you're subscribed.
I actually have a concentration of some sort for my master's degree that's in international finance, so I could talk some MBA stuff. Took a lot of accounting
International
courses.
finance?
Yeah, it was the only way I could graduate in like 2 years, and I just wanted to get out. So grad school was not ideal for me.
Okay. We're going to get the whole Brandon Gdula grad school chronicles at some point because I want to dig in more to this, and I'm very curious.
There's a lot of accounting.
Yeah.
Accounting for managers is basically
It's a lot of spreadsheets. That's a lot of data
No,
entries.
it wasn't even spreadsheets. It was like manual, like credit, debit, everything has to match, and I could never get it to match.
If there's no spreadsheets, I'm not into it, but you know, whatever. Either way, we'll get this full backstory at some point and post it on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to go to Brandon into giving his full life story. Leave a comment, leave a review and a rating over on iTunes, or I guess Apple Podcasts. Also, we are on Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. Let's dive in now to the RBC Heritage. It is at Harbour Town Golf Links, 7,121 yards and a par 71. 135 golfers in this field. The top 65 plus ties make it after 2 rounds. We had a lot of events get lopped off last year due to the COVID-19 layoff. This is not one of them. It would have been lopped off, but they did reschedule it for after the layoff. So we do have data from this course from last year. And Brandon, when you look at that data and past data at Harbour Town, what stands out to you as being important from a stats perspective?
So last week at Augusta, everyone talked distance, and this week is different. This week is more about accuracy. Distance is not something that particularly gets you a huge leg up. Now, I always struggle with that because longer hitters can just hit different clubs off the tee, and their fairway hit numbers should increase in theory. So that doesn't really mean longer hitters who don't hit fairways traditionally are out of the conversation. We talk a lot about Dustin Johnson because that's kind of what he is. That's his skill set, but he has done well here. So that's something I always struggle with. But what this really means is that guys who aren't long off the tee can still be relevant. And that just means there are more golfers who can be relevant this week. And that kind of makes things, at least for me, feel a lot more high variance because all it takes is, you're not disqualifying anyone who's not long at a course that requires distance. So that's one big thing for me, is that there are a lot more golfers in play than usual because of the course fit. Winners here since 2004. I did a little bit of a gym thing here. I was just curious. Winners here since 2004 have ranked outside the top 100 in driving distance in their winning seasons, but top 70 in accuracy. So I hope I'm not stepping on your toes too much with that type of approach there. But speaking of approach, how about that for a segue?
Wow.
Winner since 2004, since we have strokes gain data, ranked about 60th on average. Off the tee, they were about 89th or something, and then in the 70s for around the green and putting. So we still need approach. But what that kind of means is that, all types of golfers can be in play, but the key stats really are going to be hitting fairways or being able to place your drives. So something like good drive rate could be in the mix for me. But then hitting your irons really well. And then putting. So my 4 key stats are just going to be strokes gain approach, driving accuracy, strokes gain around the green to a degree, and putting on Bermuda.
And if you look at the data golf course fit tools and look at which stats matter there, it does amplify the value of around the green play. So I have that in my sheet as well. And it also said that putting was less important than usual. The interesting thing for this week is that it looks like it's going to be pretty wet. Does that influence the way you view putting for this week, Brandon, given that things could be a bit different on the greens? Because it looks like, especially Thursday and Saturday, it's going to be moist on the greens.
I looked into this a little bit, just as measured by green speed. Fantasy National has their different measurements for green speed. I couldn't really discern any particular split, whether it's slow, average, or like light. I think they call it lightning. So like, fast, slow, average, green speed. I couldn't really discern any one of those being, if it's softer, that helps worse putters or vice versa.
Right.
It didn't really jump out to me. So I think I probably wouldn't factor that in for putting so much. I could be wrong. It's something I want to look into more, but in my briefer research, I don't really think it's enough to sort of deviate a ton.
And is putting as much of a priority this week for you as usual? Because again, it did look like it was downplayed a bit on data golf stuff. Are you downplaying it at all, or still pretty high on the list for you?
Still pretty high on the list for the simple fact that it's not completely random by any means, and better putters tend to putt better more frequently. And I think that the real differentiation I've made over the years is really, really bad putters can't really gain enough strokes to win. And even in my daily fantasy lineups, even in like a cash game lineup, I've kind of moved past like rostering a value golfer who really has no shot to win because you can get 6 out of 6 chances of realistic winners. You can build lineups like that in any event. So it's still high on my list for the simple fact that I think bad putters have such a bigger uphill climb to win outright than better putters.
I think that's the way to view it. And I think that it does make sense to still include it for this week, even if it may not be necessarily as important historically, still does make sense. So I think that is a logical way to approach things for this week. We'll talk about golfers who have done well at this course recently in just 1 second. But first, for all you basketball fans, FanDuel has a special offer on the sportsbook. The NBA Same Game Parlay allows viewers to bet on any NBA, MLB, or soccer game. Plus, place a 4+ leg parlay on any team across the 3 sports. And if exactly one leg loses, you get a refund credit up to $25. Come get involved in some NBA action and place a same-game parlay on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 plus and present in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia. Refund issued as a non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $25. Terms apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Michigan, for confidential help, call 1-800-270-7117. In New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Virginia, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789, or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In West Virginia, moving into course history here at Harbour Town, starting out with the guy you discussed before, Brandon, Dustin Johnson. Not an accuracy guy. However, he's done well here at the past, and he is also the betting favorite, the highest salary golfer on FanDuel by a wide margin. So let's talk through DJ and go from there.
Yeah, I think DJ, like everything starts with Dustin Johnson. I am just waiting for the point to where we get stats like, distance gained or fairways hit with particular like clubs, and see what he does with like a 3-wood or a driving iron. I really want that. I feel like we'll get there eventually, but because I think that matters, right?
Yeah,
he's done well here. And he's Dustin Johnson, and you say fairways matter, distance doesn't matter. That does not suit Dustin Johnson. Data Golf actually has him at a minus 0.4 strokes per round, like penalty for the course fit. So just keep that in mind. But even with that, I still have him as the best golfer in the field, which is it's not like a hot take, but I think it's kind of worth talking about because of where his salary is. He's played well. At Harbour Town. He's finished 17th last year, 28th the year prior, 16th before that. And again, he doesn't really fit the course from what you think, but he's a very talented golfer in other areas, which is something that I always try to put, at the top of the list, is just well-rounded, really good golfers, rather than digging solely into specific stats for the week. He is on team RBC, which is why he's here and why he's just a much bigger name than anyone else in the field. And this is his home state, so maybe that has something to do with it. Like maybe he's a little bit familiar with this type of setup. Maybe he's played here a lot growing up. I don't actually know. He
had some time over the weekend to get ready too.
He did, but he still had to hang out and put the green jacket on.
Yeah.
He looked.
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we don't really talk about. We try to talk about the data, but he didn't seem very engaged during the Masters. He didn't, I don't know what. So like that's something that is in the back of my mind at least.
Sure.
But he does have 2 missed cuts here way back before 2010, so I don't think that's relevant. But he's gained 8.4, lost 0.3, and then gained 7 strokes tee to green in his 3 most recent starts here. So like he's doing well at the fit. The recent form is just not quite what you'd expect from Dustin Johnson. Over the past 3 months, he has just 6 starts. That does include a win in Saudi Arabia, but more recently, a 48th at the Players. He was 1-1-1 at the WGC match play. Missed the cut at the Masters. From the estimates I've seen, gained 0.8 strokes tee to green, lost 3.1 from putting. I don't know how accurate those are, but they seem pretty solid to me. But in total, according to Data Golf, they have their adjusted strokes gained. He's 14th over the past 20 rounds for this field, which is not what you'd want to see for a golfer at a prohibitively larger salary than anyone else. But over the past 50 rounds, he's first by a mile. Over the past 12 months, he's first by a mile. So it's like, what do you trust? 20 rounds or a larger sample, which is generally more predictive. So I think Dustin's fascinating. You can talk to me about someone else in the top, and then we can talk about the top of the field overall, or we can stick with DJ specifically.
Let's just do DJ really fast. I think that if you're paying 12.4 for a golfer, that salary, you want to get 14% win odds. And I think like that's, for rounding based on the sportsbook odds.
Sure.
And your win simulations have them between 6 and 7%, correct?
Yeah.
So you're getting half that for a 12.4, which is a little bit higher than what he usually is. And that makes sense anecdotally because of the way the course plays. It does allow more golfers to compete, which means more golfers could realistically win. So even if you do, like if you're ranking out the golfers, sure, DJ's probably still first, like you said, but is he first enough? Is that a phrase I can use? Is he firstish enough to justify 12.4? That's the phrase I'm going to use. I'm going with it. It's our podcast, our rules.
Yeah, I've seen like my sims they seem to be higher than other sims I've seen, which is surprising. Although like DJ's odds have fallen from 9.5 to 12-1. So like, I think he's just not getting a lot of action, which, makes sense. So to answer your question, I don't think he's like number one enough. I think he's a fine. The phrase is
first enough.
First enough. Sorry, yeah, I don't think he's first enough.
Thank you.
To make him a must play. I think last week we decided that DJ was like, when we were talking on the pod, he was the one guy we would feel like we got kind of have to plug into a cash game. Didn't turn out well. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's like of the top guys. I think that's, I don't see it that way this week.
I agreed you to the detriment of several lineups last week. I think including our bobble hat, which I still won. So
barely. Yeah, that was a tight one.
Finally closing the gap. Still down by like 17, but we're closing up there. I think for this week, I'm skipping over him easily in cash games to get that more balanced roster. And I think that's the way to go for this week. One guy you could skip down to is Patrick Cantley, who has also done well at this course. Webb Simpson's probably going to get most of the buzz because he won here in June, but Patrick Cantley, good history at Harbour Town as well. He has been here 3 total times, and Cantley, the worst finish for him is 7th in 2018. He was 3rd the other 2 times, and 2 of those were fueled by good putting, but he's gained at least 4.5 tee to green in all of those, so it's not like he was lucking his way into good finishes. So the form is good. And the more recent form is a little bit spotty. Cantley has missed consecutive cuts. Those were at the Players and the Masters. So tough events, but not a big field at the Masters. And he's not the most accurate guy off the tee. He ranks 90th in fairways gained the past 50 rounds, 41st in approach. He'll be much better once you adjust for field strength. So the data golf numbers will be better there. But, he has good form here. He was golfing well before the recent missed cuts. Is that enough to talk you into Patrick Cantley at 11.6, or are you wary with him?
I'm a little more wary, especially because I just prefer some other golfers near him, including Webb, who I'd anticipate he'd be popular. But Daniel Berger as well. I think DJ, Webb, and Berger are like the top 3. They're the 3 that I would like most at 11,000 or above. Cantley just doesn't. He's almost more like DJ, where he's not the most accurate. I don't doubt that he can like fare well here as he's done, but I just am more in on Daniel Berger and Webb Simpson. So, for the field being not amazing, like we do have about 7 to 10 like really strong options at the top.
I like Morikawa, and you did not list him there. Is that because of the putting, or what got you to not list him there? Because I have Morikawa above Cantley straight up.
It's the putting. It's mostly the putting.
Okay.
I just still can't trust it.
Can we get a Morikawa head-to-head in here? You can pick. I mean, not like DJ, but like
Webb.
if you had to pick, you wanted. I don't know. Probably not Webb. Outside of Webb. If you don't want one,
I don't care. We'll do them.
No. Okay. Burger's good too. So if you've talked me out of this. Okay. We'll circle back. We'll find a different head-to-head to do. I was scared because I like both Burger. I don't want to root against Burger and Webb. So we'll talk about Morikawa later. Let's talk about a couple guys with lower salaries who have done well here in the past. As mentioned, it's a non-distance course, which means that a larger pool of golfers can contend, which means that we've got some lower salary guys who have done well here, one of whom is CT Pon. $8,700. What do you see with him?
We have not talked CT Pon in what feels like years. I don't even remember.
It might literally be years, yeah.
But I figured, hey, why not? He's shown some good results here, including a win in 2019. He's made the cut in all 4 starts, also has a 23rd there. But really, anytime you get a winner at a course at like a value, like a recent winner, not like 2011 winner at the RBC Heritage, something like that, I think it's at least worth like looking into. But the data's been pretty good. 3.2 or more strokes gained tee to green in all 4 of those events. That's not substantial, but it's not bad for 8,700 in terms of his salary. He's gained at least 1 stroke from approach in all 4 of those. If you look at the recent finishes, you'll see missed cuts, but this is the missed cuts were at the Masters, the Players, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Those are all tough fields. He was 20th at the Genesis, 3rd at the Honda. We're kind of in that period between majors where we're going to have some really, really tough fields, and then we're going to have some fields that aren't quite as difficult. And you can't look at missed cuts and say, he's been missing cuts, so he's in bad form. Is he missing cuts in good events? And that's kind of what CT Pon's been doing. So if you adjust for his field strength and recency, Pon's irons are 80th percentile in this field over the past year, according to my recency and field strength adjusted. I think I already said that, but 80th percentile irons, like that's really strong for 8,700. So we're getting someone who has played this course well, has good iron play, and is actually coming off missed cuts, which might kind of make him a little bit under the radar in a way, despite having a win here and some good form. So, I don't think you have to dig down in the 8,000 range for a ton of golfers, but I probably will. I think that the 8,000 range is actually pretty enticing this week for a change. So Pon, someone I'm considering. Is he doing enough for you despite all these missed cuts?
Well, I think that there's other guys I like a bit more. I think I agree with your assessment where like the 8,000 range is pretty decent, which is tough because like I want to go balanced, but like, I mean, maybe that means leaving salary on the table, but like I think there are options down here where I could just like, if I use someone in the 8,000 range and just pepper the high 9,000s, which is pretty enticing, or the 10,000 range, cool, I can get behind that. I think that I would consider him, but he's not going to wind up at the top of my list just because there are other guys who I have seen a bit more from recently and I feel better about. And one of them could be Kevin Spielman, who is $9,000. Not the 8,000 range, but right there. Let's talk about Spielman here. Another guy with good course history here and actually long course history dating back to 2008. There are a lot of missed cuts in there, including back in June, but there are some high-end finishes as well. Spielman's first top 5 here came back in 2013, which is too long ago for us to actually care, but he was 7th here in 2018, 6th in 2019, and in the 2019 event, he gained 7.7 on approach and 9.7 tee to green. When he missed the cut last year, it was despite gaining 0.5 on approach in the 2 rounds. Spielman making more cuts recently. It has largely come without top-end finishes, just kind of like middling finishes. His last top 10 was at the Safeway in September, but he ranks 30th in fairways gained. He's 19th in approach, 31st in birdies or better gained the past 50 rounds. You can get that for 9,000. So does the Streel boy measure up for you this week?
The real question is he going to be the Streel boy or the Streel man this week, right? Yes. I think we're both leaning Streel man.
Yes.
Good course fit, quite accurate. I have him in the 88th percentile over the past 100 rounds. With that data coming from Fantasy National, he has some length. He's 42nd percentile there, which gets him into the 84th percentile off the tee. once I make my adjustments over the past year. One of the better iron players down in the value range as well. And the thing for Spielman for me is like he hasn't had disastrous putting weeks lately, which he can have. That might mean that one's coming, but it might mean that, it won't be quite so bad. So for 9,000, I think he's one of the better value plays for sure. And I think we're both in on him pretty securely.
Yeah, I feel safe with him, and like safe is not a word I want to use that often with like value plays. So you don't want to get overconfident. Like they're value plays for a reason, but I think that it's fair with him. So Spielman will be a guy I use decently often for this week. Let's move into the current form section, talk about golfers who come in swinging some hot clubs, one of whom obviously Will Zalatoris. We spent half the pod last week talking about how guys making their debut at Augusta don't fare too well. Will Zalatoris gave us the double-barreled Freedom Rockets and said, nah, I'm going to bust out a top 5 here. He is 11-1 for this week. Not a course fit because we think of Zalatoris more as being a big striker, but he's a good golfer. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think that because Zalatoris was all over coverage at the Masters with a solo second as a debutant.
Also on Twitter with Adam Sandler tweeting at him and stuff like that.
Yeah, the most obvious joke in the world, it felt like. But hey,
it's Adam Sandler. He can make whatever joke he wants,
Well, yeah, everyone was doing it, but I think I think I saw that Zalatoris actually had something imprinted on one of his wedges about. I think it was Mr. Gilmore, I'm your caddy, but
I have not seen that movie in a very, very, very long time.
I don't know how it would hold up. So
I'm scared to watch a lot of old movies just because I'm like, I don't want this to be ruined for me.
Yeah, even like early 2000s movies, or they start to get
like
a little
TV shows. Like some of the Office stuff makes me feel very weird. So like, yeah, I get it.
I can't get into that, but that's at least done with a purpose.
True, you're right.
All right, Zalatoris. So you said like we think big hitter with Zalatoris, and that's what he is. 80th percentile in distance, just 32nd percentile in accuracy. So it might not be like the right recipe with the driver, but again, this is the thing that I struggle with because these guys can just pick a different club and hit a fairway if they want. Not every time you hit a fairway, but like they don't have to just pound driver and miss fairways. That's something to keep in mind, even with these longer hitters who don't have great accuracy numbers. A bigger concern might be their Bermuda putting splits. A lot was made about his putting at the Masters. Actually gained strokes putting. I think he was actually toward the top with the putter from the estimates I've seen. But over 26 career rounds, he's losing more than half a stroke per round on Bermuda greens. So like that's tough. And you would think younger players will figure things out more, but Zalatoris is, I think, 24, so he's not like 20 or anything. Like he's new to us, but he's not like super young. So that's at least something to keep in mind. But he's gained at least 3.4 strokes from approach in 4 straight measured events. Before the Masters, I've seen from Nelson Adcock's data, his estimates, 2.1 strokes gained from approach at the Masters. So he's like been striping it. He probably can figure out this course if he figured out Augusta. I'm not entirely out on him, but I do think that there are better plays in the 11,000 range. So any read on Will Z?
Yeah, I think that you're right to say we're not out on him, but like there are guys surrounding him who I think stand out a bit more. Like Berger, we talked about before. I think he's $300 more. I like him. I think that Hatton, this could be a mistake, but I feel like I'd rather go with Tyrrell Hatton over Zalatoris as well. You got Paul Casey at 10-8. Again, not a super accurate guy, but he's a little bit lower salaried. We have Matthew Fitzpatrick, who's a good course fit. Abraham Answer, who is good at accuracy courses. Corey Connors, who has some distance, some giddy up, but also accuracy. I feel like I wouldn't go all those guys over Zalatoris, but like I don't know if I'd go Casey. I'd probably go Zalatoris over Casey. Mm-hmm. But like there are other options there, both higher salaried and stand out, and lower salaried who were at least even, if not maybe a little bit better. So especially because he probably will get that popularity bump given all the buzz this week, I think it's probably a good week to pump the brakes and get back in on him at a more of a bomber course, I guess.
Yeah, so like I know that he's young too, and you got to kind of think about like, oh, younger guys can play more, but you'd have to think that he's a little like mentally fatigued from trying to stay engaged at the Masters and being and tested like that. And that's like, again, that's not the kind of stuff that we talk about and be like,
oh, it matters. They're humans. Yeah.
But yeah. So I would at least rank him third in that general range. I won't include Berger there, but I would go with Fitzpatrick and Corey Connors over Zalatoris at their salaries, possibly Abe Answer as well. So I don't think I'm going to get to Zalatoris this week.
Probably not.
Yeah. His fan share tags are a little low right now. So maybe
I would bet that a lot of that is people try not to be super obvious, like, and I think that like when people pull at the player pool, like you're on your phone, which I would never fill out a lineup on a phone. Come on, have some self-respect. But you pull out your phone, pull out the player pool, you scroll, you say, oh, Will Zalatoris, he was all over my TV this weekend. I'll go him.
That's kind of the thing. And if people like aren't playing DJ at like a huge amount, I don't know how the popularity numbers will shake out, honestly.
I have no idea. I have no grasp for that. I think if I had to like pinpoint someone, Zalatoris might be there. Webb also might be there, given that he's the defending champion. I think that those might be the two things, but I think flatter salary distribute or flatter roster rate distribution this week, pretty likely. So I have talked a couple of times about how I want to be in the 10,000 range, want to get a lot of guys there and be balanced. And someone in that range is Brian Harmon. What?
You wrote Brain Harmon.
Oh, well. My brain is broken this morning. Salaries came out late. I was sending you memes, which I'm not a meme guy. So, yeah, my brain's broken. Brain Harmon. It's a non-distance course. It's always beneficial for old brain. And he comes in with really solid form. He finished 12th at the Masters, even though that's a course that does require some distance. At the Players, which is a course that better suits brain's strengths. Finished third. A big chunk of that was due to a hot putter. But he did gain 5.2 tee to green. Harmon, call him Harmon now. He had a top 10 at the American Express. Gained 5 in approach at the AT&T Pro-Am. So Harmon is golfing well right now. He gets a boost to the course layout. He's 10-2. It is close to guys like Connors, who I like a lot more. But it's not restrictive, and it's in a range I want to be in. So how do you feel about old Brain for this weekend?
I like him. I think he's one of the better plays right around that 10K range. Very accurate, good on Bermuda, 77th percentile or better in fairways gained and Bermuda putting over the past 100 rounds, according to Fantasy National. The good form here as well. I think I mentioned him as top lefty on covering the spread, and that seemed pretty safe, but ended up tied for 12th with Robert McIntyre, if I'm not mistaken. So not.
I haven't gone back and checked your results yet.
Yeah,
so that's tomorrow. That's a future.
Yeah, no.
Problem.
I just I've been on Harmon. I'm still with Harmon. He just kind of tailed off a bit. 74 in the weekend.
He tried your hardest. I think the Harmon makes sense. I think it's a good range. There are guys in the high 9,000 range who I also think stand out a lot. Harris English is $9,800.
Are we back on Harris English?
Oh, yeah. Never left. I was, ride or die, baby.
But yeah, to my detriment, I've never left really either.
Exactly. I'm not saying this is a brag. It's very much a self-own there. But, we're still here. I tend to be more of the Siwoo Kim guy between the two of us. He gets to have an actual putter again this week, so that's good. So I could consider going there. It's a good range, but I think that Harmon is someone who makes it a good range. So I'll be there as well. Let's move down to some guys in the low 9,000 range. Another range that's actually not bad this week. I would say actually the stud tier might be the worst tier this week as far as like having a grasp for it from my perspective.
I think the 10K range for me is the worst. As far as having a grasp, yeah, like the studs are all, I don't have like a super strong feeling about any of them. But I think the worst, like, relative to salary range is the 10K range.
Okay, that's fair. I like the low 11,000 range. Maybe that's tainting my view and making me like the 10,000 range more than I should. That could be it. Either way, let's talk about Matt Wallace, $9,300. I'll talk Chris Kirk after that, but both these guys are 93. What are you seeing with Matt right now?
Yeah, the recent form's like not unblemished, I should probably say. Like there are some missed cuts, but he's had some high-end finishes over the past 5 starts. 18th at the Arnold Palmer, 3rd at the Valero Texas Open, 34th at the Masters, but made cut at the Masters is statistically easy to do, but as long as you're not like imploding, I think that's pretty a pretty good recipe there. He's actually like, I don't know what you found when you were digging into like current form, but it's like one of the more robust like samples, both with like solid results and like volume, because with the Masters last week, a lot of guys didn't play. There have been just kind of like those, like the WGC. I don't know. It just feels like there hasn't actually been that much action for a ton of these golfers. So I think
been
Wallace,
very segmented because like I don't want to put too much stock in the match play stuff like that. So like, and I don't want to put stock in the Puerto Rico Open that was pretty recent? Like no, it wasn't. What am I thinking of? The one that was like a Corn Ferry Tour event, basically. What am I thinking of? Either way.
Was that Corrales? I don't know.
I
kind of block out the alternate field events
as you
once
should.
We're done analyzing them.
As you should. But like there are a lot of events recently that I don't want to put a lot of stock into. Yeah. I think it's the way that I'd phrase it.
So like I think Wallace, despite like the missed cuts in 2021, like it's still one of the better recent samples. So at 9,300, I think that he's at least worth like looking into. He has played here each of the past 2 seasons, missed the cut once in 2019, and then was 64th last year. The data, though, is especially bad. Combined to lose 9 strokes from approach over those 6 rounds, 8.4 putting in those 6 rounds. Like, that's worrisome. Now, across the board, the stats are fine, like the recent stats. He is not necessarily a fairway finder, 13th in fairways gained, but 83rd in driving distance. But, like, the kind of across the board strokes gained stats are pretty solid. I'm not really seeing enough to jump off of Wallace, but I'm also not trying to prioritize him. Do you see anything with him, or do you want to talk Kirk? Why don't you talk this range in general?
Let's do Kirk and then do the range in general, because I think that Kirk is probably my preferred option between the two, because the irons have been really good since January 1st and led to some impressive outings. He has been to 8 PGA events since the new year, and Kirk, 3 top 10s, 2 additional 16th place finishes in that time. He's gained at least 4 strokes in approach in 3 out of 8 events. He gained 2 in 2 others. And when you add it all together and look at it as a whole, Kirk is now 26th in the approach the past 50 rounds. He is 21st around the green, which helps here for sure. Not super long, less of an issue here than other places. So he's $9,300. I favor him over Wallace. But again, I think it's not a terrible range, especially because Russell Henley's here. But I think that Kirk does make sense. What about for you?
Yeah, I would agree Kirk over Wallace. Better adjusted strokes gain numbers almost across the board aside from putting, but that's close. I mean, they're pretty close overall. I think the real distinction between the two is how they gain their strokes off the tee. With Kirk, it's more about hitting fairways. With Wallace, it's more about hitting it long. So if I had to choose between one of the two, I would go with Kirk, but it's not super strong.
What's your overall sentiment around the 9,000 range? I know it's a big range, but I feel like it's pretty strong this week. Where I have guys I feel good about in like each individual like sect of the 9,000 range.
So I think the upper 9,000 range is appealing, specifically with, let's see here, Harris English, Kevin Na. I think Christian Bezadenhout is a little bit intriguing with his short game. I like Kevin Kisner at a course like this. Russell Henley. So like Kisner, Henley, Bezadenhout between 94 and 96. I'm not quite as into anyone between 91 and 93 though.
Yeah, I count Spielman as being like there. I think that Kirk makes sense at 93. I actually do like him enough. So I think that's why I'm good with it. Blame it on the vodka.
Munoz or Kirk?
What?
Sebastian Munoz or Chris Kirk?
Let me look at Munoz here.
He's 9,000.
And
do a head-to-head.
I don't see a difference, honestly. I'd probably go Kirk. Right? I'll do a head-to-head if you want.
I mean, I probably shouldn't, but I'll do it for the.
Okay. So I have Kirk, you have Munoz, your boy. Okay, I like it. Let's move to Bookmaker Odds here and see what those are saying for this event. As mentioned, Dustin Johnson, the slight favorite at FanDuel Sportsbook. He is 12-1. Webb Simpson is 13-1. Dips down to Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantley, both at 17-1. The third tier is Daniel Berger at 21-1, with Matthew Fitzpatrick and Tyrrell Hatton at 23-1. Cameron Smith is 28-1. And then Abraham Answer, Paul Casey, and Will Zalatoris round at the top group. They are all 30-1. So, Brandon, the odds here are flat. What does that do to you from a roster construction perspective?
So it makes me not really feel like I have to play DJ. I ran an optimal based on like my long-term strokes gained stats just to see like what the most strokes gained I could get for a lineup would be. Didn't include DJ, surprisingly. Now that is adjusted for the course, but I think what that really means is that you don't have to play Dustin Johnson. You don't have to play multiple studs, although that is the lineup that hit. And again, going back to what I said about the 10,000 range, nobody in the 10,000 range was in that lineup. And I think that is a little bit surprising because of the field, but I would definitely agree if I had to like kind of explain the salary breakdown in like the simplest terms, it'd be, you don't have to play DJ, but the 11,000 range is really strong. And therefore it's worth getting two of the 11K guys and maybe missing out on the 10,000 range for this week.
I think you either get two in the 11,000 range or one and then Corey Connors. I think that's probably the way that I view it because I do like Connors a lot. So I think that those are the two routes I would be taking. And I could go either way on whether the Connors route is better or the two in the 11,000 range is better.
Yeah, so some weeks, like I don't even feel tempted to play anyone in the 11,000 range or above.
Right.
You generally in like tougher fields. I would not say that's the case. I want at least two guys from Corey Connors and above, like you said, in terms of salary.
I think that's where I'm at too. I do think that because I like the 9,000 range potentially a little bit more than you do, I think that the Connors route makes a lot of sense. Also, I just like Corey Connors a lot. That's part of it as well. But I think that having a lot of confidence and comfort with guys like English, Henley, et cetera, that does motivate me to live in that range a little bit more. So I think that's the slight disconnect there. What odds movement have you seen since things opened up yesterday?
Kind of a lot. I think four guys who are notable lengthened to some degree. DJ going from 9.5 to 1 to 12 to 1. Daniel Berger 19 to 21. Paul Casey and Will Zalatoris 28 to 30. So this guy's probably not getting a whole lot of action. Again, those aren't like cavernous drops, but it's notable.
Does Berger, like, it doesn't concern you, but does it get your attention that he lengthened? Because it's kind of weird to me that he's not getting action, I guess. Like, I wouldn't bet him, which is probably what everyone else is saying. That's why. But I thought that was interesting that he lengthened and others didn't necessarily.
I mean, missed cut last week at the Masters, I think, is probably... I know, but people like...
Yeah, I know you're right.
People do overreact to that stuff. And I kind of understand it, but I think he's too good, and I know he's too good based on the data, so I'm not that concerned. I also had a fantastic moment in the bunker, so I want to root for him again this week. It's pretty...
What did he say? Like, that's about right or something like that? He
didn't get out of the bunker on a shot, and I think he just said, like, sick, great shot, awesome.
So you were talking about how you relate to Xander and what he was doing, like saying sick. That's very me. So you can be Xander, I'll be Berger in our little like allocation here. Whose odds have shortened since things opened?
I pointed this one out to you right away. Matthew Fitzpatrick. I knew that was going to move from 32. He's down to 23.
Didn't you say he was like 16 at some other books?
Yeah.
So he could still move more.
Yeah. Sergio Garcia from 43 to 35. Shane Lowry, Siwoo Kim from 50 to 35 and 36 respectively. Brandon Grace 70 to 65. Kevin Kisner, Matt Kuchar, Chris Kirk, your boy, 75 to 60. JT Poston and Sebastian Munoz 110 to 85. And then Adam Hadwin, Doug Gim, Russell Knox were all 130 or above. They're down to 95, so pretty substantial moves there. And then I think our boy, we could probably say, Matthew Neesmith from 190 to 100. It's pretty.
Oh, so you're on Neesmith too?
I think I'm always like in the back of my mind on Neesmith.
Okay. So I alluded to Siwoo Kim before, and I couldn't pick up on your vibe around him. I'm interested. I am willing to use him, especially if I wind up having, like if I use Neesmith and just live in that 10,000 range. I think that Siwoo Kim's probably one of the guys I turn to there. What's your sentiment around him right now?
I think he's like fine, which is really not a ringing endorsement, but it's also not. It's just one of those golfers where I see the case for it. We know that he's a really, really strong tee to green player. I have him 92nd percentile there. Not particularly accurate though, so I don't think that he gets a big boost in that regard. But
he's not like a sprayer.
He's not. No, 39th percentile, it's fine. It doesn't rate out as a red flag for me. Where the red flag does come in is Bermuda putting, where he loses 0.34 strokes per round over the past 100, which is concerning. I feel like he can just. He just broke his putter, so I don't know how that's going to fare.
Maybe it gets better.
It's possible. Yeah,
probably not going to get worse.
I didn't see what his round 4 putting was.
He finished 14th for the
0.25 round 4.
Yeah,
I can't remember when he broke it. If it was Friday or
it was Friday because he was like
3 back.
He was good with the cut line, and then he broke his putter, and it's like, oh no, I didn't have him, but I root for him, and I was like, oh no, don't miss the cut, buddy.
He gained some strokes both those days.
Yeah, so I think he's interesting, is what I'll say. Which lower salary golfers have odds that stand out to you?
Your boy Chris Kirk and Brandon Grace are both 65 to 1. Matt Wallace is 70 to 1. Emiliano Grillo. Grillo, 75 to 1. Kevin Stroman, 80 to 1. Sebastian Munoz, JT Poston, Carlos Ortiz are 85. And then Brendan Todd, Lucas Glover, Sam Burns, Cameron Davis are all 90 to 1.
Do you have any interest in Grillo for this week? I have not used Grillo in what feels like a decade, but he's been decent recently. Any interest?
It goes back to being such a bad putter that I feel like you're capping your ability to hit a winner. He's also not particularly good around the greens. So I don't know if this is a week where he can just be so good with the ball striking that he separates. And again, more golfers in the mix kind of makes it like he's really got to. And again, the scores here don't typically go that low if the wind's howling, which you'll talk about in just a second. But
tease.
So I don't really think it's a must. It's not obviously never a must for Grillo, but I don't think it's we're so scarce on value plays that we got to look to Grillo at 92. I don't know if I'll actually have anyone between 91 and 93. So
yeah, I'm not going to use Grillo. Just want to make sure I was not missing out there for sure. You mentioned the weather. Let's talk about that really quickly. Looks kind of rough on Thursday. Wind speeds will start off around 15 miles per hour. They will dip to around 10 for the afternoon, but the afternoon crowd has better odds of dealing with rain. The rain odds hover around 25 to 30% most of Thursday afternoon. Friday is dry, but there is wind early, decreasing again as the day goes along. So you could say, okay, I want the Thursday crowd because they could have less weather on, they could have less, rain to deal with, but they have the highest overall wind speed, across the 2 days. They might get less rain. The Thursday afternoon crowd could have lower winds, but they'll also get likely more rain. So I don't know if there will be one wave that strictly benefits, but I think there is some value to stacking tee times. It could be the late wave or the early wave. I don't know which. Just depends on which way the weather breaks. Maybe you have one lineup of each or whatever, and just make sure you have your bases covered because we can't really predict which one will benefit. Either way, I would check the forecast Wednesday because it does look like it could be kind of gross for this weekend. Saturday's going to be wet too. I would not be shocked if it just totally jacks up everything entirely for that one. Sunday will be fine, but overall a wet week seems pretty likely. Probably a good week to check out some tee time stacks just because it could be some gross weather across the board. With that said, let's move into our player picks for this weekend at the RBC Heritage. Brandon, who stands out to you based on their salaries on FanDuel for this week?
I'm going to go with Webb Simpson. I think he's the best, safest play at the top. Last year's winner just makes a lot of sense as to why he can do well at Harbour Town. Elite putter on Bermuda. I have him 96th percentile over the past 100 rounds. 86th percentile or better across all strokes gained stats when you adjust for recency and field strength. 82nd percentile in driving accuracy. It's exactly what you need. He's finished top 16 here in 4 straight years, including a win. So I think like with DJ being where he is, I don't think the gap is large enough to prefer DJ to Webb this week for me based on the course fit.
And Webb is a good cash game play, correct?
I think so, yeah.
I think with the around the green play being what it is, I think that he checks every box. I think that he should be the first guy for cash games as well. For tournaments, though, I like Colin Morikawa. He is 11-5, and it seems like putting matters a bit less this week than usual based on the data golf numbers, and that's the main lingering bugaboo for Morikawa. It's a little rough around the green, not like a strength there, which could hurt him here, but the rest of the profile is awesome for Morikawa. He leads the field in approach the past 50 rounds. If you adjust for field strength over the past year, he's 4th there based on data golf's true strokes gain data. He leads the field over the past 6 months in that department. And he'll also be good off the tee because he ranks 18th in fairways gained, which helps Morikawa make birdies at the 7th highest rate in the field. Birdies are better gained. At 11-5, he helps get me a more balanced roster than jamming in DJ, who is $900 more. I like the win equity that it gives me quite a bit. So I think that Morikawa makes a lot of sense. I understand why you don't want to get there, though, because of the putting. I think that's very justifiable, but I'm okay being high on Morikawa for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk you out of Morikawa because I understand the case for him. And if the putter, he changed his putter grip. It was terrible the first week that he did it. So I was fully fading him. And then he went out and won the following week, which just, again, a missed cut or terrible results in 1 week is not predictive of the next week. You need to look at more data than that. But when I do that, I just see Daniel Berger and Webb Simpson as better long-term players, which is scary because Morikawa is really good, but I think it just speaks to how underrated those two guys are specifically. So I'm going to prefer them straight up, which is probably why, I would point to just not really being in on Morikawa.
Yeah, and we're not talking about Berger and the player picks, but I think we both agree that he's a very good play for this week. So he's not the player picks, but he's a very good play as well. Who else do you have here instead of Daniel Berger?
There are 2 guys in the 10K range who I really do like. We're going to talk about both of them here. The first being Matthew Fitzpatrick, who is your guy from Northwestern. I know you had you were great friends.
The best of friends who I never met. Yes.
Wasn't he at Northwestern for like a semester or something?
He was there for a semester. He never actually played for the golf team, I don't think. I'm pretty sure he was like, I'll go pro. And I was like, oh, cool. Good. Do your thing.
Well, it's worked out for him. He fits Harbour Town really well. I've S tier Bermuda putter, 99th percentile over the past 100 rounds. Ranked 89th percentile in fairways gained as well. He's finished top 15 here 2 of the past 3 years. And again, I knew the line was going to, his odds were going to move and shorten from 32. They're down to 23. I still think that he's a fine value there if you're looking for outright bets, which I'll probably just pick Fitzpatrick at the end of the show anyway. But I like Fitzpatrick, and I do think that if wind is a factor, it stands to benefit someone like Fitzpatrick.
Corey Connors or Matthew Fitzpatrick?
Fitz.
Okay. Head-to-head?
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so I have Corey Connors. You have Matthew Fitzpatrick. The reason I like Connors is that I think he's an outstanding option for this week. He gives me more balance, which I do like here, and he allows me to get back up into that high 9,000 range. He grades out perfectly from a stats perspective, at least based on the ones that I'm choosing to prioritize. He is 8th in fairways gained, 7th in approach, 3rd in birdies or better gained, and he's another guy who is kind of rough around the green, but hasn't had as many truly nightmarish performances there of late. We've talked about the putting a lot there, but it's also been kind of the same for his chipping, where he's been less bad, which is good. Connors hanging around in contention with crazy good fields recently. I think he can do it again here at $10,600. So you have Fitzpatrick, I have Connors as our head-to-head, but you also do like Connors. What puts you on him?
He's just striping it. He's so good at driving in both distance and accuracy, or like good at both, which is such a plus to be that sort of flexible. And the putting has been better. I think that he's just sort of figuring things out and playing at like the peak of what Corey Connors can be.
Yep. I think that he's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm going to keep on riding it. He's been great to us so far, but let's just keep on riding. Let's move it down to the mid-range, which I do like. Who stands out to you in the 9,000 range for this week, Brandon?
I think I'm in on all 4 of these guys.
Okay, cool.
Including the 2 that you like. But I've Kevin Knott 9,800. He's 38-1 to win, which is a little bit higher than, he kind of stands out like if you match win odds to salary. 2 top 10s at Harbour Town in his past 4 starts. He's another golfer who just benefits from a de-emphasis on driving distance. He's 10th percentile in distance gained over the past 100 rounds, 72nd in fairways gained. He's pretty good on Bermuda with the putter, 70th percentile there. Elite around the greens, one of the best around the green players in the field. 68th in approach as well in terms of percentile, not rank. So like that's a strong number. And was 12th at the Masters. Just enters with good finishes. A win, cut 38th, 11th, 43rd, and then that 12th last week. So I think would be one of the first places I look in the upper 9K range.
And one reason you could go to Kevin Na is if you're concerned about the recent form for Harris English, which is justifiable, but I think that English is still someone I want to use. He is my first player pick here. Had some hiccups, that's what we'll call him, that have hurt his overall stats profile, but it doesn't seem like he's broken. He had a string of 3 straight events where his best finish was 66th, and that came in a no-cut event. Not ideal. Lost 4 in approach in that one, and 2.9 across 4 rounds in the 2 missed cuts. So that was rough. But he bounced back at the Arnold Palmer. He gained 3.9 in approach and 6.2 tee to green in that one. He was 21st at the Masters this past week. So it seems like whatever caused the disruption for Harris English has gone away. So I feel good about going back to him here. He is $9,800, ranks 39th in fairways gained and 13th in birdies or better gained. I feel like you could do a lot worse, especially assuming the bad approach play was a blip. Brandon, do those 3 events scare you with Harris English?
Yeah, I mean they do. I can't pretend that they don't. But what I look at is the past year or so, and more recent rounds are weighted heavily, but he still rates out well because he's been so good long term. So I still have him above average across the board in all the strokes gained stats, and he's also boosted on Bermuda greens. I have 90th percentile there.
Yeah, so concerning. Maybe that means you have lower exposure to him than you otherwise would, but still worth using for sure. Who else do you like in this mid-range?
Kevin Kisner at 9,500. Not someone we talk about a lot just because the course fit is rarely right for someone like Kisner, at least to the point where you'd prioritize him over the rest of the field. But 98th percentile in adjusted putting over the past year. And on Bermuda, he's 80th percentile over the past 100 rounds. He's one of these golfers, it's kind of a theme for me, but someone who benefits from not necessarily needing to be long. He's just 23rd percentile there, but is more accurate, 84th percentile. And we've talked Kisner a little bit here and there, and it's because the irons have been good. He's 84th percentile over the past year, according to my data. So I think it's like the right fit. It's the right salary for Kisner at 9,500. So he's in the conversation for me for my main lineup.
So I had Harris English and Russell Henley as my 2 player picks here. If I had not picked one of them, Kisner would have been the first place I'd gone to. I think he's great. So I agree with you there. Let's talk about Russell Henley. I think he's undersalaried. He ranks 3rd in the field in approach the past 50 rounds, 15th in fairways gained, 31st around the green. Doesn't get a ton of birdies, but part of that is due to distance, which is not as big of an issue here. Henley has missed the cut here 2 straight times, one of which was back in June. But his form was just picking up the last time that he was here, and he's been much more sustained good of late. So for $9,400, he checks every box for me. What are you seeing with Russell Henley this week?
Just gets a boost when you don't have to be long. And I think that, again, is like you just have to kind of reframe the way that you look at certain golfers based on a particular week. You can't look at missed cuts at longer courses and factor that in, but we know he's accurate, and we know the irons are still great. He's 98th percentile rather after my adjustments in long-term approach play. Like that's enough for 9,400 to put him toward the top of the field.
And I think the bigger shift is actually like in terms of upside and how you view golfers, because like if you view Webb at distance courses, you're going to say, oh, he's like a low upside but very safe play. But that upside equation changes a lot when the playing field is more level from a distance perspective. So I think that it's not just, he missed a cut of distance course. It's also the upside equation changes for these guys once we get to a non-distance course. Let's move down to the value plays here in the 8,000 range. Who is standing out to you there, Brandon?
Brendan Todd, just another golfer who not long off the tee by any means. I have him first percentile in distance, but 100th in fairways gained. So should fit perfectly. 97th percentile in Bermuda putting. So, I mean, he should hit fairways and putt well. I'm cool with that. Just a short track Bermuda specialist, basically. Not good irons, 32nd percentile, but really good short game overall if you include the around the green play too. Just one start here over the past 4 years, which was a missed cut last year by losing one stroke to the field. So I'm not going to overreact to that by any means.
I think that Todd is fine.
So do I.
Yeah. I think that your logic for him makes sense. I just don't think I'll get there personally, because I'd rather go to Kevin Spielman, who is 9,000. We talked about him before for the course history section, but court form's good enough too. Ranks 30th in fairways gained, 19th in approach, 31st in birdies or better gained. He has been less frightening around the green of late, which matters for this weekend. Like, not a lot of outlierishly bad ones. $9,000 has a path to a top 10 finish, so I'll take that for sure. Where do you view Todd relative to Spielman?
Lower.
Okay, so you have Spielman over Todd?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Who else do you like here in this value range?
Zach Johnson, the other Johnson.
Is he the other Johnson this weekend, though? That's the true question. How far can we go with this fade DJ take?
That is true. 8,800 as well. 73rd percentile in approach. So someone I've been talking about, you talked about once or twice. Like, the irons have been getting better, which is surprising for his age. But 73rd percentile over the past year just really benefits from not needing to be long, because he's not. He can hit fairways. He's coming off 2 straight missed cuts at the Masters and the Valero, which is a little concerning, but again, it's not something that is enough to make me jump off. And he's played here 8 times, some mixed results, 2 missed cuts, 2 top 16s, but 6 out of 8 made cuts. Like, I'm fine with it.
I think between the two events, the Valero would be more concerning in terms of the miscut, because it wasn't a distance course. But in that event, he wasn't terrible. Like, he lost 0.6 in approach. That's not that bad. So I'd agree. He's still an option for this week for sure. I think that I'm higher on Johnson than Todd between those two, but I think that Johnson does make sense. I also like Matthew Neesmith, $8,400. We alluded to him before as being kind of our guy. And I will be going balance this week, but I think that, at times there will be interest in going down to 84 with Neesmith, and allowing myself to get to those 10,000 type guys, get to Siwoo Kim, get to Brian Harmon, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that Neesmith will be my player pool. The approach play is elite, or very good, ranked 6th there the past 50 rounds. Also 18th in birdies or better gained, despite not being a very long golfer, 24th in fairways gained. So less of a disadvantage this week. For $8,400, you could do a lot worse. Obviously, there's been some betting action on him if he shortened from 190 to 100. What do you see with Matthew Neesmith, Brandon?
Pretty simple, straightforward process. Irons are there, pretty balanced off the tee. So the ball striking should be there. It's the short game that comes into question. Basically, red flags in around the green and long-term putting. So it's a recipe that you should be okay with. Sometimes I think maybe this week it's fine enough to go with Neesmith at 8,400. Okay,
so that's where we're at there. Let's finish up with our player picks for this week based on the current odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So you're not getting Matty Fitz at 32-1. Who are you looking at for this week for your win picks?
I'm still going to stick with Fitzpatrick at 23.
Okay.
And then there's another name that jumped out to me. Well, there's actually a few. I think the mid-range is intriguing. So for the context of this, we just are trying to pick winners, obviously, but at their numbers. So I'm intrigued by Brendan Todd, because if that would hit at 90-1,
basically,
it'd be tough to overcome that. It's always tough to narrow it down to 2. I might go Henley though at 60 as well.
Okay. I was very strongly considering Henley. We can both overlap here because it's just win picks.
But I should have done Connors then at 34.
Well, I'm going to pick Connors, so you'd be overlapping with you either way. I'm picking Connors because he's a guaranteed winner. Don't bet based on that. That's a joke. We're not going to phrase things like these. Questionable podcast. I think that Connors is good at 34. So
Connors is Jim's lock of the week.
Nope. Nope. Putting the kibosh on that. And the other golfer I want to pick, I actually don't have a great read on a second golfer. I think that Henley does make sense. But you know what?
If you pick Henley, I'll move off of it.
No, you can take Henley because there is another golfer who is right there, whose odds are being held down by the man because they were frightened off by a 3-event stretch where he went totally off the rails. But you know what? Harry English is back, baby. He never went nowhere, but they say Harry's back. 50-1, gonna win this week. So I have Harris English and Corey Connors. You have Brendan Todd and Russell Henley, correct? No, not Brendan Todd.
No, I have Matthew Fitzpatrick.
What was I thinking about?
I said I was considering Todd at 90-1. Like I'll bet him, but for this, like I don't need to give my long shots for this necessarily.
So I didn't totally black out. You did say Brendan Todd at some point.
I did talk about Brendan Todd for a bit. Yes,
I was listening intently. I was trying to pick my guys. That's
I know.
So you have Fitzpatrick and Henley.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Got it that time. Those are our win picks for this weekend at the RBC Heritage. That is all the time that we have for today here on the Heat Check side of things. But a reminder, we are back once again later today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter on the FanDuel side of things. Brandon will be talking about his win simulations. He can go through his spreadsheets, answer any questions you may have, some head-to-head stuff. Find that there. That's at 3:30. At 4 o'clock, I'll be on to talk MLB DFS. Get you set for Tuesday's slate, which does have a lot of fun pictures. So make sure you are subscribed on your platform of choice, whether it be the FanDuel YouTube page, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, whatever it may be. Find us there and get those questions in this afternoon. Also, do not forget to subscribe to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. And if you like what you hear or if you win some money, leave us a rating and review as well. Brandon, if people have questions for you before 3:30, where can they find you on Twitter?
I'm at Gdula13, GDULA13.
And I'm at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to Joy Affleck, our video producer for today. Joy, thank you so much for running the video side of things. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with the RBC Heritage. We'll talk to you once again, not next week because there's no event, but the week after to get you set for more PGA. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.